The Rich Perspectives Podcast. We are here another night. Tonight is an extremely exciting time for me. This is actually my third official podcast, but the second. Well, let's say this is my third podcast, but second official podcast. All right, that's it. The first one was an actual intro, and the one we did last time was "Change Your Mind, Change Your Life." It's all in how you see it. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you guys again. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am Richard Adams. This is the Rich Perspectives Podcast. We're going to get right into it today. The subject or topic of discussion on today is the three S's. Three of my favorites. This is one of my favorite topics to speak on. But the three S's. The word success has three S's in them, and I've given each S an assignment. But it is submit, subject, and shut up. Submit, subject, shut up. Those are the three S's. And you know, it's about success, and I like to talk about it. It's one of my favorite topics. So we'll go ahead and jump right into it. Well, let me go back to the why. The reason why I picked this is because with me being, well, I don't say I'm so young anymore. I'm only 34, but I started in business and entrepreneurship at a young age. 19 years old is when I got in the barbershop. When I was in the barbershop, I had the privilege, and I say this with absolute honor and humility, because it was a pleasure. I had the absolute privilege of working with and under two of the most dynamic men I've ever encountered in my life. And they're actually a father and a son. So here I am, 19 years old, in the barbershop, fresh out of high school, a year or so before. And I'm in the barbershop, and my instructor is 50, of course, old enough to be my dad, and his dad is 70, you know? And so we have like Nathan in common, like absolutely nothing in common. And so here I am, at what I think the prime of my life, because we just knew everything at age 19. And I'm in the barbershop with these two gentlemen, and uh, I was, well, let me go back. My instructor, the son, who was 50, he was a former sergeant major in the United States military. You already know how that went. And his dad was a pastor. You already know how that went. I had many sermons practiced on me. So I heard him first, y'all. I heard him first. But there was so much wisdom and knowledge imparted into me at such a young age. And I watched them. It wasn't always fun. I wasn't on the scene like I wanted to be. I wasn't in the cool, happening barbershop. It was just like, man, they so boring. Like, man, why we can't do this? We can't get a bigger TV? Or can we listen to the radio today? I don't want to hear no church music though. You know? But aside from all of that, they imparted so much wisdom and knowledge into me just in general conversation. It was absolutely paramount. And it still has a lasting effect on me today. One of the things that stood out was Mr. Moody, the father. He had this big, long Cadillac. It was probably from that wall to that wall over there. But it was this huge, long Cadillac. But anyway, I think he bought that Cadillac brand new in 89 or maybe 92, something like that. But he said that was the last car that he had uh, financed. Or maybe no, that was the first car that he had financed. He said that was the first car that he had ever financed, or whatever, one of them. But anyway, he said that after he paid the car off, what he did was he started taking the actual car payment and depositing it into his bank account. He never stopped making the payment. And from that year, it was either late 80s, early 90s, when he bought that car, he had never financed another vehicle. He would take the payment from the car. Once he paid it off, he kept paying himself in the bank. And whenever he got ready to buy himself or his wife another car, he'd go to the bank, take his money, and pay cash for the car. And he continued paying the payment. He would go ahead and get the numbers, have them run the numbers to see what the payment would be on that car for that time, you know. And whatever the payment was, the interest rate was, that's what he paid into his account. And so whenever he wanted to buy another car, he had the money in the bank to go and purchase a car cash. And he only bought brand new cars. He must be doing something right. He has to know what he's talking about if he's making these kind of moves. Um, his son, retired military, ended up working back for the Army base here. And he had this nice house he had built out right next to the shop. And his vehicles paid off as well, you know. And so listening to these two, and it was far more than just having to pay for a vehicle, but listening to these two about life, love, and relationship, we talked about everything. Some of the stuff was so uncomfortable. There was one time, there was an article on the front page of the paper, and why they put this in the paper, I don't know, but it was some medical school somewhere in America had did some tests some way somehow and discovered that the rind of watermelon, the green part, it has the same effect in men as Viagra. Here I am, 19 years old. The youngest person in here, to my age, is 31 years older than me. And his dad is 20 years older than him. And I'm sitting here like, I don't want to hear this. And that weekend, I kid you not, every old man that came in that barbershop had that paper. Oh, we gotta go get us some watermelon this weekend. I'm like, this is disgusting. I don't want to hear that. That's nasty. You know, the visual. You know, I'm a very, animated individual. I can see that. Take it away, Jesus. But they imparted so much into me. And so what I did was I began to submit myself up under them. And I started to listen. And it went from me being not necessarily forced, but being there against my will, if that makes sense. And it went to me asking, hey, what do you think about this? Hey, I'm considering doing this. Hey, what would you do? I remember on my 20th birthday, my girlfriend at the time wanted to take me out. She had plans. My 20th birthday was on a Friday too. And she's like, yeah, we're going to go out. I'm going to take you out. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And so I went to work Thursday and I told Carl, the son, I said, hey, tomorrow's my birthday and my girlfriend's going to take me out. Can I not come in tomorrow? And he said, it's going to be your birthday when you get off, right? And I was like, what? He was like, no, it's going to be your birthday when you get off. You come to work tomorrow. And I was like, well, number one, I felt like I was self-employed. And so I actually should be able to come and go as I please because I don't really have a boss. This is barbering. And the other side of that, because it was an apprenticeship, it's like school in a sense. So, I mean, if I want to cut class, if I don't come to, I just don't come to school. But he was like, no, it'll be your birthday when you get off. She can take you out when you get off. We'll be out here at 7 o'clock. And she can take you out then. You have to be back 7 o'clock Saturday morning. And you better be on time. I thought that was the most cruel and inhumane thing that you can do to a 120-year-old boy. And so I'm like, okay. So I had to go, So I showed up next day for work. And believe it or not, from that day on, and I'm 34 now, I haven't worked on my birthday every year since. With pleasure, actually. But it was so much that I learned from submitting myself to their authority, subjecting myself when it was difficult. Carl was a former sergeant major. He brought some of those same military tactics in the barbershop. At times, it was unbearable. I even reached out to the barber board at one time to see what I needed to do in order to take my permit from up under him and go and train to get my license elsewhere. I didn't like it, but I subjected myself to their authority and leadership in times when it was difficult. And when I wanted to, I didn't. I shut up. When I wanted to say something, when I wanted to argue, when I wanted to plead my case or speak my piece or be combative to a degree, I shut up. And that essentially put me in a place to where I could be who, how, and where I am today, which essentially is a boss. Again, I talked about in my previous podcast, I opened my county's first barber school. I opened my first barbershop at 25. I purchased my second barbershop at 31. And those are all things that I would not have been able to do had I not submitted myself under someone else's authority. With submit, what I did was I found someone who had done whatever it was that I wanted to do, thought I wanted to do. I found someone who had done it, and I contacted them. Hey, I want to do what you do, and I submitted myself under them. How can I serve you? Do you need an assistant? Is there something I could do to help you further your vision? To bring another aspect of your vision into fruition? What can I do to be of assistance to you? Only thing I ask in return is that you teach me. Show me. I submitted myself to their authority and their will, essentially. It was hard at times. And in those hard times, you have to be subject. You have to subject yourself under someone. Someone who is an authority figure. They may be combative. They may have a nasty attitude. They may be a know-it-all. But if they are doing what you essentially want to do, if they have what you essentially would like to have, you should subject yourself. That's wisdom. Subject yourself under them in those difficult times. And in those times when you want to be grown. I remember when I was on my 18th birthday, I told my mom, I said, Mom, I'm 18, I'm grown. She said, you grown, huh? What's the last three letters of grown? And I'm like, GROWNOW. Own? She said, right. What do you own? I don't own nothing. Well, shut up. And that's how it went. You have no right to speak your piece. If you're not in a position of ownership, if you're not the boss, if you're not the lead man in charge, shut it down. You have to shut up. Submit. Subject. And shut up. That's the only way it's possible. You're not the greatest. You never will be the greatest. There will always be somebody greater who's doing more, bigger, and better things than you are. But if you want to do it too, if you at least want to get on the same playing field as they, or have opportunity to be one of the greats, you have to find someone to submit yourself to. And you should do that willingly, with pleasure. In those difficult times, subject yourself. Force yourself into subjection under those individuals or that individual, that system, that principle, whatever it is. Force yourself into subjection. And when that's hard, shut up. Don't say a word. Listen. You will learn so much from listening. Submit, subject, and shut up. Rich Perspectives Podcast. We're here. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is the third official podcast, and this is all still fairly new to me. Again, as I told you before, I'm in my parents' basement. You probably hear my kids running around, and my daughter's up there screaming her head off as I speak. But I couldn't make it to the studio in Columbia today. So for the most part, my podcast will be coming out of the studio, and it will be a lot more professional and elaborate. And even if I have to continue to do some at the house, I will, get me on a nice little backdrop or something back there, and give you something that's a little more appealing. But we in here. We always close out our podcast with a challenge. And my challenge again is actually the topic of today. Submit, subject, shut up. You have a goal in mind. You have aspirations and dreams that you would like to accomplish. Find you someone better than you. Find you someone that's doing greater than you. Find you someone who's doing what you would like to do and submit to them. In those times where it's hard, subject yourself to them. Be subject or be dismissed. When I first heard that sting, that thing pierced my heart. I felt it in my soul. That's tough. But find you someone to submit yourself to. When it's difficult, subject yourself to them. Force yourself into subjection. Force yourself to stay. Don't run. Stay. And in those times, when you want to, oh so bad, don't you do it. Don't say a word. Shut up. So that's my challenge for you guys. Rich Perspectives Podcast 2018. This is show number 3. And we out.